So, I'm going to be talking about the challenges I have faced in social work. So, these are some of the 5 challenges I have faced since I became a social worker. If you've not seen that video, I'm a hospital based social worker. I recently did a video earlier in the year talking about what I do as a hospital based social worker. So, you can check out the video just to understand. So, let's get into it. Number one thing or challenge you will face as a social worker, particularly as a hospital social worker, that's the perspective I'm bringing, is the fast paced nature of hospital social work. I actually do think that every social work team or most social work teams or social work areas are fast paced, but I also know that some areas or some teams are more fast paced than the others. I think my team is quite very fast paced, and that's because working in hospital means, and being a hospital based social workers means that you're responsible for discharge planning, and there is so much pressure on the NHS beds. If you follow the news last week, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Andy Bonner, was talking about funding adult social care to make sure that people leave hospital faster and free up the beds. So the NHS beds are high pressured beds, and the only way beds can become available is if we leave hospital fast, and that falls back to adult social care. I'm not saying that all the discharge planning or all the discharge responsibility lies with adult social care within a hospital. No, that's not true. There are some people that will come into hospital and they will leave without requiring any extra additional care. There are some people that will come into hospital and they have to be discharged through a CHC pathway or through a therapy led pathway. Again, see that video I did sometime earlier in the year. It kind of explains all the pathways I'm talking about. We are mostly the scapegoats. It could not. It's possible that what's causing the delay is not even us. The person maybe still needs to be seen by physiotherapy, still needs a moving and handling plan or something. But adult social care is, the it's easier to blame adult social care. So one of the things you may struggle with as a social worker, in adult social care or in a hospital-based social worker, is the very fast-paced nature. There is so much, requirements. It's expected that you would do your assessments as quick as possible. So if you're someone that likes to take your time, slow down, you have to pick up the pace, my dear. Another thing that you will struggle with, something I really struggled with, is the difference between medical and social model. Remember, I'm talking from a hospital-based social worker. So I have a social work training, and before being social work trained, I have a law training also. And so I'm very used to the social model of doing things. Again, if you're an aspiring social worker, it's very important, or you're a social worker, it's very important to look up the psychosocial model and the medical model. There's a lot of textbook on that. So I have a psychosocial training or psychosocial model training, whereas the doctors, the nurses, they have a medical training. So one of the things I struggled with when I started working in the hospital setting was how very risk averse the doctors, the nurses, the physio are. They are so risk averse. For instance, someone has been living at home for 20, 50 years. They come into hospital for one incident or the other, and people are saying they can no longer go back home. They need to be in a care home. And then I asked why. And they said, oh, because he lives alone. And I'm like, okay, but he's been living alone for 20, 30 years. Don't get me wrong, there are people who come into hospital and truly we look at their circumstances and we identify that they require 24-hour supervision. So they require to go into a residential setting or a nursing setting. That's absolutely true. But there are people who come into a hospital and we look at their situation and we identify that there's no reason to change what's been working. We look at things from the social perspective and identify that there is no reason to change what's been working. What's been working, that they've lived at home, they've managed well, they know how to cope with their risk, and there's absolutely no reason to change that. So one of the struggles that you will struggle is, in getting the doctors, the nurses, the physiotherapists on your team, the wider MDT, to understand and see things from your lens as a social worker, because many times they would not see things from your own perspective. They would want you to see things from their own perspective, from the medical model. So you might have some, let's say frictions, but we are all professionals, so we settle our frictions in a professional manner. At the back of this is, if you're someone who likes friendship or likes having friends or like being called a good person, you're going to find social work challenging because naturally, by the nature of social work, social workers are not the most loved people or the most cherished people in the society. I mean, we do the back-breaking work, but a lot of people do not like social workers. So if you are so keen on being liked, you may struggle a little bit in this industry or in this profession when you come in newly. But don't worry, with time, you get used to not being liked. So, another challenge that you might struggle with in social work is, how do I phrase it? I want to phrase it if you're someone that doesn't like to be told what to do, or doesn't like to be led, or doesn't like to run with people's vision, you may struggle a little in, when you join social work. You might find it challenging. And let me explain. So your manager, every manager that manages a team has a vision for that team. There are some managers whose vision are to get everybody home as long as it's safe, to get them home as long as it's safe. They should go home. They don't need to go to a care home or something. You might also have a manager whose vision is everybody should go to a residential placement. I don't know. But to succeed as a newly qualified, you need to identify what your manager's vision is and try to see how you can run with that vision. Now, I'm not saying your manager should not be challenged, that your manager is always right. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying that you need to pay attention to the team and the vision that your manager has for that team, and see how you can support that team, that vision, and how you can support that team to actualize that vision. Can your managers be challenged? By all means. Can you disagree with your managers? I agree that you can disagree with your managers. You can challenge them, but I would say do it respectfully. You don't want to pick up workplace battles when there's no need for it. Right. Okay. The next, or the one of the biggest challenges you would face in social work is difficult family members. Family members they love their loved ones, they love their father, they love their mom, they love their sister who is in hospital, they love whoever is their loved ones that you're, supporting or working with. But many of them do not understand the process. Many people also have these very preconceived ideas about social services and social work. And so even before, by the time you step into that family, step into get that case, even before you say anything, they're already up, in arms, antagonistic, waiting to chew you raw. So that might be something you might struggle with, dealing with family members. Like, you might find it challenging, but with time you will learn how to have those difficult conversations. You will learn how to manage those emotions, even when the family members have been rude to you. You would also learn how to manage those emotions, and and just let it go over your head. Right. Another challenge you will face is, if your last week and earlier this year, I had someone that came to my team to shadow, and this person is an aspiring social worker, and they said to me, I don't like reading and writing. And I thought to myself, if you don't enjoy reading and writing, you may be in the wrong profession. I don't think social work is for you, and it's not for me, and I'm not being judgmental. I'm saying, if you've decided to become a social worker, you need to start learning how to read, or enjoying how to read and write. I mean, I know you know how to read and write, but you need to start enjoying it, because social work will require a lot of reading and writing. A lot of writing. You're doing assessments at every point in time. A lot of writing is required. And if you're not used to writing, and just getting to the mood and writing, you may struggle a bit. But again, with practice, with time, these are things that you will get used to. Another thing that you might find challenging is how to have difficult conversations. In social work, we're going to have difficult conversations all the time. Sometimes you may make a plan and you go back to the office, and that plan has to change, and you need to communicate that to the person that you're supporting and their families, and it might not be very pleasant to them. At the back of this, I have to give you a tip. Please try to manage expectations when you're dealing with families. Try not to overpromise. It's better to underpromise and then overdeliver. Try not to overpromise, and so that you can manage those difficult conversations. So difficult conversations may make you uncomfortable. There are times where you have to say no, because It is like there's no funding. It's sad, but there's no, or sometimes there is no need for what that family is asking for. Family is asking for something, but you've looked at the evidence, you looked at everything. There is no need, and you have to say no. Those are difficult conversations, and they can be quite challenging. Okay, now I've come to the end of some of the things I wished I knew before joining social work. If you found this very helpful, please don't forget to like, love, hype, and subscribe. Thank you. I'll see you on my next video. Bye for now.